Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth Jellison, and this is my topic expansion on managing conflict. So to start off, I just want to introduce my topic. It's conflict management in the workplace specifically. And I chose an article titled Keep Your Foot Out of Your Mouth, Surefire Strategies to Handle Customer Communication Problems. And I got this article from the American Management Association, and basically it's just about examples and tips for conflict management, for customer and employee communication whenever there's a disagreement or a complaint. And the key points that I'm going to be discussing today are the communication pitfalls to avoid and action steps that can be taken to have a better resolved conflict between everyone. I also want to define conflict. So it's defined here as a serious disagreement or argument, typically a protracted one. So protracted meaning long-lasting or longer than expected. And also what causes conflict, which are the communication pitfalls that I'm going to explain now. So these are all of the communication pitfalls explained in the article. So the first one is attacking the person rather than the problem, which does not solve the problem. It just makes the conflict worse and more heated between the two individuals that have a disagreement. Over control, which is using your position of power over others. So for example, this could be like a manager or an owner using their power position over customers in an argument. There's cultural ignorance, which is disrespectful communicating patterns, such as crossing your arms or hand gestures that may be considered disrespectful in another culture. There's also re-escalation, which is bringing up an argument and reintroducing defensive feelings after an argument has already been resolved. Lack of audience awareness. So this is basically when you don't walk away or calm a situation down after you seem to notice others watching the argument become more heated and more intense. The next one is counterproductive language and phrases. So this basically means negative, like having a negative attitude and purposely using trigger words, risking a more hostile argument. The next one is failure to listen or allow the person to vent their feelings. So it's really important to be empathetic and willing to hear the other person out if the conflict has any chance of being resolved. So really understanding how the other person feels. The next one is appearing disinterested or judgmental. So how you're portraying yourself with your body language, if you're turned away from the person, if there's no eye contact, or if you appear to be bored, the other person is just going to feel disconnected and like you guys are going nowhere with resolving this. So those are the communication pitfalls. Next, I'm going to be discussing the action steps that can be taken to resolving conflict. So these are the action steps. The first one is to establish a connection. So this is showing interest and genuine concern for how the other person is feeling, and practice using words that will resolve the problem rather than making it worse. And also using positive power phrases such as tell me what happened, or how can we work together, let's solve this together, and I'm sorry you had a bad experience. The next one is to acknowledge the other person's feelings. So by recognizing the other person's feelings, even though you disagree, is one of the best ways to go about managing a conflict, and it's really good for dealing with irate or irrational people, and it's always a really good idea to remain calm when dealing with someone else who is really emotional in a situation. Also, for this one, the article discussed using practice phrases, just basically saying, I respect how you feel, or you're right. The next one is to explore options. So this is basically asking questions and eliciting customer feedback. So if you basically include the customer in decision making, it's important to know what they want. This is considered like a productive course of action by practicing constructive communication between both parties. The next one is to negotiate a resolution. So by actually documenting the agreement between the manager and the customer, it creates, it basically lets the customer feel like they have some control too. It's like a give and take process, so this requires time and energy, but the rewards are well worth the investment because it definitely increases the likelihood of a loyal long-term relationship. So to summarize what I talked about today, I defined what conflict is to have a really clarified understanding of what I was talking about. I discussed the most common scenarios and reasons for why conflict arises in the workplace. Those were the communication pitfalls. And then lastly, I discussed action steps that are the most effective to resolve conflict. Thank you guys for listening to my presentation.